to the World Prize on the podium this weekend. And in second place we've got Just Roberts. Yes, way to the huge throng of crowds that are down here. And taking a win, Michael Heath. And taking a win then from SuperCup, BRSCC. Congratulations, Michael. Michael currently third in the championship, but didn't finish on the podium yesterday, so obviously we to that one. Over the moon. Absolutely over the moon. A real good qualifying, coming out cold. West, gone 5 seconds. Second race, was it? Oh, eight, I don't know. You know, but that's nice to see. He deserved the win yesterday. Today, I think Friday. So he's really one of the reasonable healthy guy. I never made it start. Don't know why. Tyres up, I think Steve will have an hour a little bit on the start. I think that's what we're on it through, right? And I think that's right.
Hello and welcome to our fourth and final stream of the day here at Croft. This BRSCC race meeting, the TCR UK race meeting, which has been dramatic from start to finish. 3 more races though coming your way over the next hour and a half or so, and we will start with our third and final race of the weekend, the Avon Tyres National Formula 4 Championship, after which we'll have action from the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup and Miltech Sport VW Cup. So 3 very entertaining races guaranteed, and the potential still for a champion to be crowned in the National Formula 4 Championship. Niall Murray's been making it hard work for himself this weekend. He came here really just needing 3 solid results to be crowned the champion. He didn't finish yesterday's race, had to start from the back in today's first race, and only made it up into 7th place with his big championship rival Michael Eastwell finishing in 3rd. Now, as far as we know, the championship can still be won in this race by Niall Murray, but what exactly the permutations are, we're not entirely sure. So as soon as we get news on what that situation is, we'll be sure to let you know. But Niall Murray basically needs to try and get himself up ahead of Michael Eastwell to win the championship. And with the fact that this is a reversed grid race, he has a good opportunity to do so, because Niall Murray starts on the front row of the grid alongside pole sitter Jack Wolfenden. So it's Wolfenden and Murray row 1, with Jordan Dempsey making a welcome return on row 2 alongside Matt Round-Greedo, who went well throughout the middle portion of the earlier race. Joey Foster and Michael Eastwell row 3. So Eastwell this time around has to get himself up ahead of Niall Murray if possible to keep his hopes alive. James Clark, one of the stars of the show in the race earlier on this afternoon, has our double race winner Josh Smith alongside him on row 4. Row 5 for Carter Williams, the American, and Sebastian Job, with David MacArthur and Austrian racer Nico Gruber, who had a spin early on in race 1. He's looking to fight back now from 12th on the grid. Luke Cooper also had a spin at the same time, but in a separate incident at the chicane. He starts 13th with Richard Morris alongside, whilst Vincent Jay and Rory Smith make up row 8. Back row of the grid for Jamie Thorburn, and Jonathan Brown. Now, Jamie Thorburn and Rory Smith tangled down at Sunny in the very treacherous conditions. There was a rain shower a couple of laps into our earlier race today, and in the slippery conditions, those two just tangled wheels whilst fighting for position, and they both ended up out of the race. So they are 2 cars, the red and white number 45 and the blue and white number 50 from the back of the grid, that really should move forward. They're definitely 2 that we'll try and keep our eye on over the course of the next 15 minutes, the final 15 minutes of action this weekend for the Avon Tyres National Formula 4 Championship. And they have 3 more races next time out at Donington Park. So this is going to be a pivotal race in the outcome of the title. There is Rory Smith, the first of those drivers I mentioned, coming from the back of the grid. The blue and white car behind him is the Scottish driver Jamie Thorburn. Thorburn family very successful in the Formula Ford arena. Jamie Thorburn, who was ahead of Rory Smith at the time. Rory was trying to go through on the inside at Sunny, but it was just so slippery down there. These cars do run on grooved tyres, but they still lose grip, of course, if it gets wet. And they just slithered into each other, and unfortunately both ended up out of the race. Not too much damage done to the car there. You can see the red tank tape on the front of the number 45 car. Jamie Thorburn, we weren't sure what the extent of the damage was on his car, but you can see them both out there at the back of the grid. Jonathan Brown also had a spin in the earlier race and stalled the car, I think, wasn't able to get going again, so he will start from the back. So the back row of the grid then starts to line up. There is Jonathan Brown at the tail end of the 18-car field, all of whom are about to descend upon Clervaux, with Jack Wolfenden, the yellow and black car, on pole position, and championship leader Niall Murray alongside. The revs start to rise. The final race of the day for the Avon Tyres National Sport Championship gets underway now. They rush down towards Clervaux corner for the first time, and Jack Wolfenden gets a good start. Niall Murray is going to try and go with him around the outside line. Then Niall Murray wants to win this championship from the very front. He gets into Clervaux first and turns across the bows of the pole sitter to lead through the first corner. There is Michael Eastwell running wide, and he's losing ground. Carter Williams is on the inside. Sebastian Job is trying to go with him as well. So there's a potential here that Eastwell could be outside of the top 10, having started 6th. So that is the worst possible scenario. Murray gets the lead, Eastwell losing ground, and it looks further and further likely that Niall Murray is going to take the title in this race. Down towards that, they go all slithering and sliding around. Matt Rangrido there nearly lost the rear of the car. He's just behind fast starting Joey Foster, but Jack Wolfenden is starting to slip down the order slightly now. He's lost another position there down at Tower. He's down into 3rd place. Niall Murray already starting to scoot away as they go through the Jim Clark S's, and Matt Rangrido's out on the run-up area and goes round the outside of Joey Foster through the Jim Clark S's. That takes some real skill and some real nerve as well, and Matt Rangrido demonstrating both of those there as he moves his way ahead of the 155 car. Joey Foster out wide, go a couple onto the grass coming out of Sunny. Didn't quite spot which of the cars that was. Further back, and see Jamie Thorburn, one of those cars went out wide, and it's Murray that leads the way. Oh, there's more cars off further back going into the complex. It's all getting a bit physical here in the early stages of this final race of the weekend. You can tell it's a reverse grid race, with the quicker drivers rather impatient in their efforts to get further up the order. So this is going to be a fascinating race, that's for sure. Right then, Niall Murray apparently needs 9 points more than Eastwell in this race. Murray essentially needs 9th on the track, or 10th and the fastest lap, to wrap up the championship. It's leading, so that's all sort of academic. If he wins the race, if he takes any points out of Eastwell, then he is going to win the championship. So it looks as though Niall Murray, so far at least, yesterday, he's doing everything he needs to do to win the championship. But yesterday, mechanical drama put him out of the race. You never know when those little niggly issues can strike. Right, down towards Tower they go for the second time. You can see that actually the number 3 car, Jordan Dempsey, is rather truly going to win him. Jack Wolfenden there has Joey Foster trying to go around the outside. Now, where's Josh Smith? Oh, he's just behind these two, and he might be about to get in the middle of them, because Joey Foster runs wide on the grass coming out of Tower, and almost allows Josh Smith to have a run down towards the S's. In fact, it does, and Josh Smith goes through. So Josh Smith moving up into 5th position now. He is now the black car on the tail of the black and yellow, number 65 of Jack Wolfenden, who started on pole position, and Josh Smith wasting no time, dives straight up the inside into Sunny, runs a bit wide on the exit. Can Dempsey, Wolfenden, come back at him? No, he can't. So 4th place now belongs to Josh Smith. 2 places gained in 2 corners. Now, Niall Murray is the only driver to have won all 3 races in the same weekend this year. Josh Smith has won the first 2 races this weekend. If he can get up to the front quickly enough, there's every chance that he could become the 2nd driver to achieve that. Joey Foster locks up as he goes up the inside of Wolfenden there into the hairpin. He makes 2 sticks, losing another place. The next car behind them, I think, is going to be Clark, isn't it? Yes, James Clark, who's not made quite as much progress at the start of this race as he did at the end of the start of race 2 this weekend. He's still in the hunt for a top 5 position, that's for sure. Though they go, the lead gap is only 4/10 of a second, and Jordan Dempsey was quicker than Niall Murray last time around. The lead gap went down slightly, and Matt Rangrido, going after the pair of them, in 3rd place, was also quicker than the leader. So just now the top 3, then this is the 4th place man Josh Smith, 5th is Joey Foster, 6th is Jack Wolfenden, 7th for James Clark, 8th is Carter Williams, 9th place for Luke Cooper, as Niall Murray is really having to defend the race lead now. Jordan Dempsey looks quicker than the champion-elect. Now, of course, the last thing Niall Murray needs here is to have contact and not finish the race, because then, even though Michael Eastwell is struggling, currently down in 14th place is Michael, but if Niall Murray doesn't finish, then the championship could go down to the wire at Donington Park anyway. So Niall really, above all else, needs to make sure that he reaches the end of this race in one piece. If that means giving away a couple of positions, then in the grand scheme of things, that's not necessarily a bad decision to make. Down towards the complex they go again. This is the 3rd lap of the race, and these are the 3 cars fighting for the lead positions. But of course, in 4th position, Josh Smith, he is now in clean air and chasing after them and bringing with him for company Joey Foster. They're the 2 black cars running 4th and 5th at the moment, that finished 1st and 2nd in the first race. Joey Foster dropping down to 4th place in race number 2. late on in the day, just struggled a bit in the wet conditions. Oh, and Jack Wolfenden, and that's a shame, he's in barriers, coming out of sunny out. A fairly big hit that he's had there. It's pulled the front left wheel off the car, and yeah, that was really unfortunate for Jack, who you can see was struggling a little bit. And just to clarify the point situation, basically to simplify it, unless Michael Eastwell is first or second in this race, then regardless of what Niall Murray does, he's not going to win the championship. At the moment, Michael Eastwell is 10th place with Niall Murray leading. As the safety car comes out, this might play into Eastwell's hands. The safety car out, unsurprisingly, because of Jack Wolfenden's car stricken at the side of the road on the exit of the Sunny complex. And so we just have a moment or two to catch our breath. There is Carter Williams, so he's running in 8th place. Behind him is Rory Smith from the back of the grid, and then somewhere there, Michael Eastwell, the white and blue car, number 92, flashing through. So Michael Eastwell in 10th position. He gained 4 places on that previous lap, one of which was as a result of Wolfenden going off, but the other 3 were moves that he made out on the track. So Eastwell, I don't know what happened to him on the start, because he was 6th on the grid and about 14th or 15th at the end of the opening lap. So we saw him getting squeezed out wide through Clervaux. He didn't go into the gravel trap, but maybe just lost a little bit of momentum through the first few corners, got on the dirty side of the road. That was all it took in the end for him to start plummeting down the order. So 9 minutes to go. Niall Murray leading the race. Jordan Dempsey is second. Matt Rangrido is in third. Josh Smith, excuse me, in 4th place. Again, in clean air, has set the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 30.084. That will be, I think, the fastest race lap we've had all weekend, because yesterday's race was very wet and this morning's race was damp and greasy, so you're only going 2 seconds quicker than they were earlier on today. 5th place is Joey Foster, 6th for James Clark, 7th Luke Cooper, 8th Carter Williams, 9th Rory Smith, and Michael Eastwell in 10th place. Jonathan Brown is 11th from the back of the grid as well. Jamie Thorburn is the one that hasn't really made much progress, the man who was inside the battle for a top 5 position in race 2 earlier on today. Jamie Thorburn only 13th at the moment, having started 17th, so he's gained a little bit of ground, but not quite as much as maybe we expected him to. So we approach half race distance. By the time this incident's been cleared, we will be into the second half of the race, I'm fairly sure of that. So we'll have maybe 6 minutes or so of racing. Still plenty of time for things to change, especially since Niall Murray just doesn't look that comfortable in the lead of this race, does he? He was under a lot of pressure from Jordan Dempsey, who we haven't seen that much of. In fact, this is his first appearance this year in the Avon Tyres National Formula 4 1600 Championship, but he is a former front runner across many Formula 4 1600 Championships, so we know that he's a proven quantity, but fresh into the car, having not raced it for quite some time, for years, we didn't really expect him to be on this sort of pace. He had a 6th place finish in race 1 and another 6th place finish in race 2, and that was of course enough to give him 3rd on the grid for this reverse grid race 3. He leapt past Jack Wolfenden early on at the tower and has latched himself right onto the gearbox of the champion-elect Niall Murray, who just really needs to finish this race, and he will be crowned Avon Tyres National Formula 4 1600 champion. But it's always the case, you get to this stage of the year, it's all well and good getting all of those race wins and all of those points that you score throughout the season. It's getting it over the line, and it's remarkable. We've seen it today in the TCR races with Dan Lloyd's problems. We've seen it in various championships over the years. You get to that race where you could wrap it up, or where you're on the verge of wrapping it up, and fate has this knack of really messing around with you, and things just go wrong that previously you could never have dreamt would go wrong. You know, drivers who never make mistakes all of a sudden find themselves going off the track. Cars that never break down all of a sudden develop technical faults, and this will all be going through the mind of Niall Murray, I'm sure. But even if he doesn't finish this race, Michael Eastwell would still have to finish inside the top 2 to take the championship away from him. So Niall Murray has at least got that in the back of his mind. He knows that Michael Eastwell still has to overtake another 9 cars, or 8 cars, to put himself even mathematically in contention, and even then it would be barely mathematical. Essentially, he would need Niall Murray to not turn up at Donington Park, and I somehow don't think that's going to happen. So Niall Murray, who in the first part of the season wasn't particularly dominant, he got the odd race win and he was constantly on the podium, but it was really through the middle portion of the year and sort of Brands Hatch, Castleview and Park rounds, that's when he came alive. Really has been quite a big hit for Jack Wolfenden. He's pulled both of the front wheels off the car and crumpled the nose cone quite substantially as well. So Jack Wolfenden, unfortunately, that car's going to take quite a bit of repairing before the final rounds at Donington. I'm sure the team will do their best to get the car fixed. And Jack Wolfenden in the 2013 spec Van Diemen. Great to see a good mixture of cars out there as well on the track. The Van Diemens, certainly throughout the noughties, have been the car to have in Formula 4 1600 racing. But we've got the likes of Michael Eastwell in the Spectrum, the Rays of Joey Foster and James Clark going well this weekend. Joey Foster's been the front runner all year, but James Clark in the newer Ray, the 2011 spec Ray, has been a star of the show this weekend, particularly when it was damp and greasy in race 2. He's currently running in 6th position in this race, not really charging through the field like he did when the grip levels were a bit lower. But the Rays running strongly, the Swifts as well, of course, particularly Luke Cooper, but Luke's had a bit of a weekend to forget as well. Yesterday he had a 10th place finish, and then after the spin earlier on this afternoon was only 13th. Luke Cooper is running 7th in this race though, so Luke Cooper, the red and white number 6 car, winner at Silverstone with a sensational move around the outside to take the lead with just over a lap to go in what was at the time one of the most exciting Formula 4 1600 races I'd ever seen. The thing is, we've had another 4 or 5 that are contenders for that crown since then. The racing this year in this championship has been exceptional, and it goes to show that the Avon Tyres National Formula 4 Championship continues to be one of the most popular championships in the country. Right, the race distance has been extended by 5 minutes. This is something that tends to happen with the Formula 4s because the races are only 15 minutes long. A safety car like this one can really eat into the time. So as long as there is time available through the day, and we are, touch wood, running more or less to time at the moment here at Croft with 2.5 races still to go, so they're going to add those 5 minutes that have been lost by running around behind the safety car back on at the end of the race. And I think we may be getting close to a restart. The lights are still on at the moment though on the safety car, so it looks like Niall Murray's backing them up in the hope that the lights will go out very shortly, but if they do, then they're leaving it very late to make the decision. But of course, with the fact that Wolfenden clearly went into the barriers fairly heavily, they have to check that the tyre wall is intact, and they can't allow racing to continue if the tyre wall is damaged. It won't do its job properly if another car goes off, and it's not uncommon to see cars in the tyre wall at the exit of Sunny. So I think they're going to give it another lap just to make sure that everything is absolutely as it should be. It'll still give us about 6.5 minutes or so of racing, which is what I predicted in the first place. So we will have good 4, maybe 5 laps of racing to decide the outcome of this race, the outcome of the championship. Knows what's going to happen. There's Jamie Thorburn, the blue and white 50 car, just ahead of the Austrian driver Nico Gruber. Those two both had issues in the previous race. Gruber currently running in 15th place, Thorburn in 14th place. Really charged with the order. There's McLaren Greedo, who's been a contender for the last couple of seasons now in this championship, but really winning races with quite the regularity that he used to. He also races though over in the Irish Championship, where he is the championship leader, I believe, at this stage. He certainly has been throughout the middle portion of the year. A lot of these drivers, in fact, go over and race in the Irish Championship, with the notable exception of Irish driver Niall Murray, who has focused his efforts entirely on the National Championship this year, and that's possibly been a good move. There's an argument to say that the more seat time you have in the car, then the more comfortable you'll be in it, the quicker you'll go in all of the races that you do. But I think sometimes you can maybe overdo it, and Niall has taken a bit of time this year to sit back between meetings and really reflect on what he's doing, and he's come back all the better for it. He's been, throughout the middle portion of 2018, virtually unstoppable. He's had this remarkable run of race victories. As I said, the only driver to have won all 3 races in a day, or a weekend, excuse me. Josh Smith is the man who could do that here this weekend. He won the first 2 races. He's down in 4th at the moment. This safety car was perfectly timed for Josh because he was a few seconds behind the top 3 before it came out. Well, of course, that gap now disappears. He latched right onto the tail of the leading trio. And he's already shown that he can lead from the front, but in this race he's pulled off some decent overtaking moves as well. So stopping and getting up there, challenging Niall Murray for the victory. Look at the way Niall Murray throws the car around. Almost looks like he's going to lose control of the car, but he's just trying to get as much tyre temperature, particularly in the front tyres, excuse me, because these being rear-wheel drive cars, they heat the rear tyres up okay, but the fronts can take a bit of work to get the temperature into them, and that can lead to quite try to move understeer in the early stages of a race. Right then, safety car is coming in. We're going to have about 5.5 minutes of racing left then when we do go racing once more. That's about to happen. Lyle Murray, your race leader, Jordan Dempsey in second, Matt Raugrino in third, and our double race winner so far this weekend, Josh Smith, in fourth position, and there he is, right on the tail of the leading few cars. In fact, the whole field fairly well bunched together on restart here. Luke Cooper flashing through the red and white from 6 car, looking for his best results for the weekend. Just as they rush down in towards the very tricky first sequence of corners through the right-hander at Clervo, not running into the crowd on the exit here, and a little chicane into Hawthorne, which goes on and on and on, and then you've got to try and pick your apex through the chicane without hitting the curb too hard, without hitting the tyres on the inside, and without running wide on the exit. It's all action starts on the lap here at Croft. Go down the back straight where the slipstream starts to take effect, and look at Josh Smith in behind Matt Raugrino. He's close enough to have a pounce. Matt Raugrino locks up, Smith goes up the inside line. Matt tries to close the door, but I think the Oldfield car is going to go through here. They'll run wheel to wheel down to the Jim Clark S's though, and Matt Raugrino doesn't back out of a fight all that easily, so Josh Smith's going to have to fight for this one round the outside through the left-hander, gets the inside for the right-hander. They always bang wheels at the fastest point on the circuit. Both off the road they go. Smith still hanging on to the inside line, and he finally makes the move stick, but there must have been inches between the left-hand side wheels of the Zero car and the right-hand side wheels of the number 27 of Matt Raugrino. Matt, though, is trying to fight back now as Josh Smith runs onto the grass coming out of Sunny, and he might just have handed the position back, but he just worked so hard to get in the first place. He has. So Matt Raugrino's gone back through. Smith out way wide, and that really delays Joey Foster. And look at that, James Clark again pulling off some sensational overtaking, gets past both of them in one fell swoop. So Clark comes up from 6th into 4th place now. Joey Foster's got ahead of Josh Smith. Oh, and Luke Cooper, oh, what a shame. Luke Cooper and Josh Smith making contact, and Luke Cooper just when he was on for his best result of the weekend, and actually his best result for a little while, he's out of the race, and he looks over in disgust at Josh Smith, who I think was limping into the pit lane actually. Contact between Joey Foster and James Clark there to go into Clervo corner. He's kicking off in this third race, isn't it? Joey Foster clearly feels he's quicker, and then if he can get through, he might be able to go and challenge for a race victory. There's man in third place, Matt Raugrino. The only 3 cars who didn't really get involved with each other too much on that first lap were the leading 3, and as a result, they've been able to pull away from, well, the leading 2 I should say, they've been able to pull away from everybody else. Here the fight for 4th position, and James Clark has to be late on the brakes down at Tower to keep Joey Foster at bay. We've seen how aggressive Joey Foster can be. He can pull off some really good moves himself. Remember that move that he made 3 wide on the grass on the final lap at Alton Park last time out. Right, here's a replay. So for some reason, Josh Smith's car seems to be slowing. He goes into the hairpin. Joey Foster's gone through. Luke Cooper is trying to go around the outside, and Smith is just going to wash out wide, and, well, it's hard to see from that angle how much room they left each other, but Cooper was on the outside. If he went any further to the outside, he'd have been in danger of getting on the grass. So that's a prime example there of how the slightest bit of contact in these open wheel cars can break the suspension in a flash. Right, this is the battle for the race lead. Jordan Dempsey chasing down Niall Murray, who really does want to win this championship with on the top step of the podium in this race, doesn't he? He doesn't want to finish second. Second wouldn't be good enough for the championship victory though, because where is Michael Eastman? He's only into 7th place, so he's making some ground, but he's not going to get up there and challenge Niall Murray for the victory, that's for sure. Around the hill they go in towards Clervo again, and Murray, who has shown on many occasions this year that he can do something that most Formula 4 1600 drivers struggle with. He can get into the lead and break free of the rest of the pack. It's so hard to break the toe in these cars. Niall Murray's done it on several occasions this year, and he's essentially done the same thing again here. He's got 1 car for company, but so far he seems to have everything it takes to keep Jordan Dempsey behind. He's on the penultimate lap of this final race of the weekend for the Formula Fords. Niall Murray on the verge of becoming the champion. Dempsey second, Raugrino third, Clark now 4th, still ahead of Joey Foster in 5th position. Michael Eastwell with the 6th now, ahead of Rory Smith, who started at the back of the grid. So Eastwell is driving well in this race. It just all went wrong really on the first lap. It's a case of what might have been had he got round the first few corners in the 6th position that he started in. Who knows, he might have had the pace to go up there and challenge for a victory. As it is, it's taken him almost all of the race now just to get back to where he started, and he's going to leave himself a lap or so to try and make further progress. Down through the complex, go the leading 2 again. It's all kicking off for 4th place, I noticed, and that is the group that includes Eastwell. There they are. So it's James Clark in 4th, Foster 5th, and there on the back of the train is Michael Eastwell. And in a way, he's been actually more preoccupied with holding on to his 2nd place in the championship. But I'm sure in the back of his mind he was hoping that something might happen to Niall Murray to allow him to challenge for the outright title. It's not happened though. Michael Eastwell is going to have to settle for second at best in points at the end of the year. In this race, though, he can see a chance to move up an extra 2 positions into fourth, and over the course of the final lap, that's exactly what he's going to try and do. James Clark has that fourth place. Joey Foster is in fifth, the black 155 car, and sixth position for Michael Eastwell. Josh Smith, by the way, did indeed come into the pit lane, so he was slowing anyway, I think, before he had that contact with Luke Cooper. He pulled immediately into the pit lane. Appears to be heading back out on track. So for the final time, down towards Tower we go, and it's side by side for fourth place with Joey Foster on the outside, James Clark on the inside line, both of them twitching under braking, and Joey Foster going to go right round the outside, is he? As long as he's left room on the exit, he should make it work, which he does. So Foster goes fourth, but now he's the man punching the hole in the air for James Clark behind him as they rush through the high-speed sequence out the back of the circuit. Front of the field though, Niall Murray is not looking likely to be moved from the race lead, and try as he might, Jordan Dempsey just can't get there. He's been with Niall Murray ever since the restart, but hasn't ever really looked likely to challenge. Niall Murray looks as though he's going to come home a race winner and a champion here at Croft. What's going on behind them for fourth? It's still Foster. Michael Eastwell was fifth, but runs out wide, and James Clark comes back at him, but James Clark going back to the inside of the hairpin. It was tangled wheels again, but no, Michael Eastwell stays in front. They go into the final corner, as out of the final corner comes Niall Murray, and Niall Murray sees the checkered flag and provisionally wins the Avon Tyres National Formula 4 Championship 2018. He wins the race by 3/4 of a second. His championship winning margin is quite a bit larger than that. It's been a dominant performance this year for the Irishman. Jordan Dempsey there in the number 3 car comes home second. Matt Greedo is in third. Joey Foster gets fourth. Eastwell hangs on to fifth, which actually, considering he was 14th at the end of the opening lap, that's not a bad effort, but it's not enough to keep his championship hopes alive. James Clark promoted to 6th on the last lap ahead of Rory Smith 7th, Carter Williams 8th, Sebastian Job 9th, and Nico Gruber gets a much needed top 10 finish to go with his 8th place finish from yesterday. Well, Niall Murray, there's no arguing with the fact that Niall Murray is a deserving champion, because he has driven imperiously all year long, really, and he definitely wanted to win the championship in style with a race victory here at Croft. And of course, all of the drivers, if they have a chance to win the championship with a round to spare, it just takes some of the pressure off. Those long 3 or 4 weeks between this meeting and the final one at Donington will pass by an awful lot more quickly now. They won't be so nervous, they won't be stressing about anything that could go wrong. The championship's in the bag now, barring any exclusions or penalties at Donington Park. Niall Murray provisionally is our 2018 champion. Well, what will he do next year? That's the question, because Niall Murray's been around in Formula Ford racing for quite some time. Will he come back and defend the title next year? We'll have to wait and see. Murray, though, takes the victory, takes the championship, with Jordan Dempsey in second and Matt Greedo third. Joey Foster with a consistent, one of his more consistent weekends of the year, actually, a second and a pair of fourth places for Joey, with Michael Eastwell in 5th position. 6th place for James Clark, 7th Rory Smith, 8th was Carter Williams with Sebastian Job 9th, Nico Gruber in the Ray, rounding out the top 10. Jonathan Brown was 11th after his non-finish in race 2. David MacArthur 12th ahead of Vincent J. Richard Morris. Jamie Thorburn only 15th, and he actually, I think, pulled into the pit lane late on, finished a couple of laps down. So too, of course, did Josh Smith after his contact with Luke Cooper, who also is a retirement, whilst Jack Wolfenden brought out the safety car after going into barriers at mid-race distance. Well, highlights of the race then, and Jack Wolfenden may have started from pole position, but he didn't stay there for long. Niall Murray, although he didn't get such a good start, managed to carry the speed down into the first corner and led the field from virtually lights to flag. Wolfenden slotted into second, but was immediately challenged by Jordan Dempsey, whilst behind several cars ran out of road on the opening lap. The midfield tussles were as entertaining as ever as Joey Foster tried to go around the outside of Wolfenden, who at this point was already starting to slip down the order. Jack Wolfenden couldn't keep them behind for long. Josh Smith, first of all, got up the inside. Joey Foster didn't take that long to follow him through. Down towards Tower, it was a good move made by Josh Smith as he tried his best to get into contention for the race victory. He challenged Matt Greedo. They ran wheel to wheel through some of the most challenging corners in British motorsport. Neither of them on the track as they came out of the S's, but Smith went through. It all then started to unravel though for the double race victor this weekend. The car seemed to slow through the complex, and as others tried to stay out of his way, contact was made with Luke Cooper, putting Cooper out of the race before Smith pulled into the pit lane to retire. James Clark had Joey Foster for company in the later stages of the race. Clark, a star of the show in the previous race, this time around struggling a little bit more. He was briefly in 4th place before falling back down to 6th on the final lap. Michael Eastwell came from 6th to 14th to finish back in the top 5, but it wasn't enough to stop Niall Murray from taking the win and the championship victory provisionally in the Avon Tyres National Formula Ford 1600 Championship. Well, some great racing all year, and don't forget that even though the championship's been decided, that just now means that the gloves are off for Donington Park, a circuit that always produces exceptional racing, regardless of what category of racing we're talking about. With the slipstreaming antics of the Formula Ford 1600s, we can expect some top quality entertainment in the Leicestershire circuit in a few weeks' time. So make sure you tune in for a real fitting send-off to the 2018 season. Well, we've got more racing coming your way. 2 more races today. The BRSCC Mazda MX-5 SuperCup are up next, followed by our final race of the weekend for the Miltech Sport VW Racing Cup. This is going to be a really important race for the Mazdas, and it's coming your way in just a couple of minutes' time.
Yeah, I think I was just moving there. He was very good defending his tower, which is where I was a lot stronger into it. So I have to just say, hats off. It's a MCDM 1-2-3 in our race, so it's a brilliant race. And now we've got the championship as well, so we have to go on happy this weekend. And I have to say thanks to that. We want to pass the car together this weekend, and hopefully might get out the best of the world race and see how we go there. That will be good. Yeah, always is.
The final race of the weekend for the ever entertaining BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Super Cup, a championship that could not be more finely poised, because by my reckoning, the top 2 in the championship, Luke Herbert and Jack Harding, are tied on championship points going into this race. Now, after this race, there will be just 3 rounds left of the championship at Donington Park next time out. It's almost certain, well, it is certain, in fact, it's impossible for the championship to be won today, but it's almost certain, I'd say, that it's going to go right down to the very last race of the season. And the battles between Luke and Jack this year have been nothing short of sensational, and it's funny that they always seem to find themselves together on track. I mean, this weekend, Jack Harding had an abysmal qualifying session by his standards, qualified back in about 14th or 15th place, with Herbert up towards the sharp end of the grid. But within 2 or 3 laps of the race earlier on today, they were right back together again on the track, and there just is no shaking off Jack Harding in this championship. Luke Herbert, of course, the reigning champion, won in dominant fashion last season, beat Mr. MX-5, Tom Ropes, to the title in the final round, but it was only really a mathematical final round decider. There was an outside chance that with penalties and whatnot that Luke Herbert could be beaten. This time around, it's going to be decided, let's hope, out on the circuit. Well, this is a reverse grid race because it's the final race of the weekend, so we've got a slightly jumbled order, and that means that man there, Jack Harding, actually starts ahead of Luke Herbert now for this race. So for the first time all weekend, he will be in front of his big championship rival, and he needs really to try and take advantage of that. This is Jack Harding's home circuit, of course, and so he really would like to end the weekend on a high and go into Donington Park with the advantage. Simon Baldwin it is who, not for the first time this year, inherits the pole position from the reverse grid, with Will Stacey, the Silverstone winner, alongside him. Aidan Hills and Jack Harding make up row 2. Now, Aidan Hills is Luke Herbert's teammate. He's also mathematically still in contention for the championship, albeit it is a remote possibility at this stage of the season. Harding 4th, Herbert 5th, with James Blake Baldwin, the race 1 winner, in 6th position on the grid. Row 4 for Lewis Carter and Richard Wicklin, with Carl Garnett and Nick Dunn rounding out the top 10. Row 6 for Christian White and Darren Stapleton. Row 7, Gary Townsend and Alec Livesley, with Mark Swarbrick and Steve Roberts one to watch for. The car mysteriously slowed for half a lap or so in the previous race, before seemingly coming back to life, but only good enough for a 16th place finish in the end. Row 9 for George Grant and Bradley Kent. Row 10 Will Stevenson and Tom Parker, ahead of Nick Rutter, Colin Bysouth, Jonathan Greensmith. Now, that car took a big whack in the previous race. I'm not sure whether it's out there for this one. We'll try and pick out the white car with the blue stripes, car number 2, coming from 23rd on the grid if he's out there. Then Sam Tatler 24th, James Kell and John Stack rounding out the field. 26 cars, we hope, are about to do battle for 20 minutes, we hope, around the Croft circuit. A bit of confusion there maybe, but yeah, Luke Herbert's lined up in completely the wrong grid position, so the reigning champion, you'd think he'd know how to line up on the grid by now. He's a very experienced racer, is Luke Herbert, but he was so preoccupied, I think, with following Jack Harding there, who I'm sure he's going to be focusing on an awful lot in this race, that he very nearly did line up in the wrong position. But he's been guided by the marshals into the correct grid position now, which is 5th on the grid, and he will have Jack Harding ahead of him at 4th on the grid, ahead of what is going to be, I'm sure, another sensational race. Mazda MX-5 SuperCup races are never dull, with a reverse grid and a championship that could not be more finely poised. We're in for a real treat, I think, over the final, the next 20 minutes or so. Simon Baldwin on the pole position, the number 16 car, the similarly liveried car. You can see just poking out on the outside of row 3 is James Blake Baldwin, who won the first race of the day. They did have a race scheduled yesterday, but it was abandoned after a couple of laps and a couple of incidents out on the track. So essentially this is now just a double header rather than a triple header race weekend. This still is the reverse grid race. It's still worth the same amount of points. 100 points available, remember, for a race victory in this championship. So one race win for one championship contender and a non-finish for the other, and it blows everything wide open. There are drop scores to take into account, of course, but hopefully that won't be something that is an issue in this championship, because generally speaking, Jack and Luke have both got a really good finishing record, so it's very likely that it will be decided out on the circuit. There seems to be some more confusion towards the back of the grid with cars that aren't lining up in quite the position they were supposed to, and so the drivers at the front of the field, who've just spent that green flag lap working the tyres hard, trying to get the temperature into them, they're now sat there on the grid losing all of that temperature, and they're going to be itching to get the race going. But now the red lights are on, we're about to go racing, the lights go out, away we go. Who makes the best start at the front of the row of the grid? It's Simon Baldwin on the inside. Look at Jack Harding diving across to the inside line, trying to get across in front of Luke Herbert. Can he do it? Herbert's on the grass, and Jack Harding stays in front of him. Really, really important that was for Jack Harding as they race down towards turn number 1. Simon Baldwin lead, Harding goes to second place at the inside of Will Stacey, Herbert's at the inside of Avon Hills as well. Hold your breath, let's hope they all get through here. This is such a funnel part of the circuit. They can be 3 wide on the way into the first corner, but you can't go 3 wide through the first corner. Thankfully, I think they all got through in one piece, and they head out onto the back straight for the first time, with the race leader under severe pressure now from Jack Harding. It is Simon Baldwin leading the way. Harding is somewhere there behind him in second place, then it's Will Stacey, then it's Luke Herbert, and Aidan Hills, who is fond of these round the outside moves, has just taken 4th place away from Herbert, and he's now trying to take 3rd place away from Will Stacey. Will leaves him room just about on the exit of the corner, and as they rush down towards the Jim Clark S's, can Aidan Hills go through into the 3rd position? They're still side by side. Now Stacey has the inside line, Herbert's in there as well. The last thing Luke Herbert needs is for these two to make contact in front of him. Instead he goes straight up the inside of Hills, who sort of bails out of that one, and in fact James Blake Baldwin I think will go up the inside of him as well. So the order is Simon Baldwin, Jack Harding, Will Stacey, Luke Herbert in top 4, with James Blake Baldwin in 5th and Aidan Hills back down to 6th. Carl Garnett is 7th, ahead of Lewis Carter by the looks of it in 8th position. That is your leading 8-car breakaway as they rush down towards the complex for the first time, and Jack Harding is going for the race lead around the outside of Simon Baldwin through the left-hander. Oh, there's contact between the two of them. Baldwin's off the road. Oh, that's such a shame for Simon Baldwin. Let's hope that hasn't damaged either car. It just looks like two drivers going for the same bit of road, and unfortunately Simon Baldwin is the one that gets the hip and shoulder out onto the grass. So Harding, in more robust fashion than we usually see from Jack, is in the lead of the race. Will Stacey is 2nd and Herbert 3rd. So there is 1 car between the top 2 in the championship, and if things finished as they are now, Harding would take the championship lead into the final round at Donington Park. Down into the first corner they go. Harding leading the way. Now can he escape that easy centre done? And Will Stacey, although he's not a particularly familiar face in this paddock, he is a race winner this year. He actually previously raced in Lotuses, in Lotus Elises, very successfully, made the move over into this championship and won on his debut, then had that big accident in the second race at Silverstone and hasn't yet been back onto the top step of the podium since. But this is by far the best opportunity that he's had since then. He's putting the race leader under pressure, but at the same time coming under pressure from Luke Herbert behind him. In the final corner they go, down the chute towards the Jim Clark S's. Stacey is now in an unenviable position. He is the man separating the 2 prize fighters in this championship bout, and Luke Herbert will be hell-bent on getting past him, that's for sure. But at the moment, Stacey is actually really applying the pressure to the race leader. The slipstream, of course, sometimes flatters the cars behind because you can use the slipstream to get a big run on the race leader. Oh, Jack Harding is off the road! Jack Harding loses the rear of the car, and that's all the invitation Stacey needs. Gets up the inside line through the second part of Sunny, but that's the outside line down to the complex. But this, of course, is the move that Jack Harding used a lap ago to take the lead away. Can he now hold on to the lead just about? But this might bring Luke Herbert into play as well. Herbert going for second place as they go through the middle part of the complex. There's a bit more contact, and James Blake Baldwin could get past both of them. He goes into third. He's trying to get into second place while Stacey fights his ground. But I think that James Blake Baldwin, with the inside line down towards turn 1, is going to pull off a brilliant bit of reactionary driving there. He saw that unfolding in front of him, and he positioned his car absolutely perfectly to take full advantage. And so our race 1 winner is now through into second place, and there are now 2 cars between the 2 contenders for the championship. So actually, what started off as a big mistake for Jack Harding has actually benefited him, because he's now got a bit more of a buzzer over his big title rival. He's taking even more points out of him provisionally now as well. There's Luke Herbert, the number 1 car, the reigning champion, who will not be particularly pleased with what went down just then at the complex, but it wasn't really anyone's fault. It was just the 2 cars in front of him stacking each other up, and then he sort of got caught in the middle of it. Jack Harding, though, does not look comfortable in the race lead here. Now, as I was about to say, the fact that the cars behind are getting the aerodynamic benefit of the slipstream can sometimes make it look like they're much quicker than the car at the front of the queue. That's not necessarily the case. It's just so hard to escape in this sort of race because the slipstream plays such a big role in the way that the racing works. So even once you get to the lead of the group, you can carve your way through. You sometimes look like you're by far and away the fastest driver on the track, and then you get to the lead and you just can't escape. Well, Stacey tried to get back on the inside of Blake Baldwin there as they go through Sunny in, but it didn't really ever look like it was going to work, and indeed it doesn't. Blake Baldwin carries better speed out of the corner. Aidan Hills there defending hard from Richard Wicklund. Now, Richard Wicklund in the grey car, he went very well last year throughout several rounds last season. We really thought he'd be a championship contender this year, but Richard Wicklund there in a slightly bent and battered number 76 car, having by far his best showing of the season. So good to see Richard up there on the tail end now of this leading group of 6 cars that I think is going to continue to get larger and larger and larger as the race goes on, because Jack Harding is going to have to keep on defending the race lead, and every time that he defends, it holds the cars behind him up, and they get closer and closer together, and the queue gets longer and longer. And towards turn 1, we're only just into the second quarter of this race now. James Blake Baldwin has set the fastest lap at 38.694, which I'm fairly sure will be quicker than they went in the first race. Yes, it is, by about a tenth of a second or so. This is more favourable now. We had a bit of drizzle in the air earlier on this afternoon. Bone dry, bright sunshine now here at Croft in the afternoon, albeit still quite blustery. And that, of course, will potentially be making this slipstream effect even more profound, because if you're driving into a headwind, then sitting in the toe of the car in front gives you even more of a benefit. So that's possible to keep the field particularly close together here. Through the Jim Clark S's again, Harding still holding onto the lead tenaciously. The question really is, what can Luke Herbert do? Or what will Luke Herbert do? Will he go full attack and think, right, I've got to get to Jack Harding and I've got to get to him now? Or will he sort of just sit there and, in true Luke Herbert style, just let the race come to him? You can see that Harding's under pressure. There's every chance that he could lose the lead, and all of a sudden Herbert will be right there with him. So out of Sunny they go towards the complex once again. Here's the replay. So this was Harding round the outside of Simon Baldwin. This was to take the lead, and well, he locked up and went straight on that. I hate to say it, but I'm sure there'll be a discussion about that after the race, and after the way that Jack Harding was excluded from a race last year, and that put him out of the championship equation, it would be heartbreaking to see the same sort of thing happen to him again this year. But of course, that's just what happened to James Blake Baldwin after contact with Steve Roberts of Castle Combe earlier on this year. That was a bit more significant than that, the contact, it must be said, but you never know. It will certainly be discussed post-race, I'm sure. Right, something's happened here, because Will Stacey has actually just lost third place to Luke Herbert. So Will Stacey, somewhere through the final sector, whilst we're watching that replay, lost a lot of ground to the leading 2 and lost momentum onto the straight, momentum enough that Luke Herbert was able to get through and just about take that third position away from him. So another place gained for her, and there is now only 1 car between himself and his joint championship leader. But I'm not quite sure what happened to Will Stacey there. Of course, Will Stacey also running under the Rob Boston awning, so it's possible that there was a little bit of team play going on there, but find that hard to believe. Out wide goes Luke Herbert on the grass. He's doing his best to give the place back now, isn't he? Will Stacey almost got himself back alongside, but the outside line into the Jim Clark S's is never a particularly tasty prospect, and so he backed out of it. So they're paired off now, 2 for the lead, Harding and Blake Baldwin, 2 for third, Herbert and Stacey, and then 2 for fifth, because Aidan Hills has still got Richard Wicklin applying the pressure, looking for his first top 5 finish of the year. And Richard Wicklin, who's not been with us actually for every round this year, in fairness, that's why we've not seen him as a regular appearer at the front of the field. But now he's back in the championship, going really strongly and trying his best to get that 5th place away from Aidan Hills, who's just not looked as strong this weekend as he has done previously. And at the moment, Aidan is looking like he's going to break this run of consecutive podiums, because he's had this remarkable record of a podium at every round this year. It doesn't look as though he's going to get a podium in this race unless something dramatic happens in front of him. And in fact, he's just lost 5th place, look, because Richard Wicklin in the background, I think, has just got through. They're certainly side by side. Look down towards turn number 1. Richard Wicklin in the grey car on the outside line. Can Aidan Hills stay to the inside down towards the first corner? Let's see. That's the fight for third. What's going on for 5th position? I think Aidan Hills has actually fended him off, in fairness. So Aidan Hills, let's see. Yes, there is. He's still in front of Richard Wicklin, but they're losing further ground now to the leading 4. So the lead gap, not that it particularly is relevant because it's only a car's length or so, is just under 2 seconds. What's more relevant is the gap between the 2nd place man Blake Baldwin and the 3rd place car of Luke Herbert, and that is a 1.5 seconds. And on the previous lap, Herbert was not as quick as the leading 2, mainly because he's having to defend to try and keep Will Stacey at bay. So really, these two could do with working together, but Herbert seems to be pushing really hard just to try and hold on to this 3rd place. He's not really being able to concentrate on pushing after the cars in front, so this is taking the pressure off Harding slightly. But up towards the very quick right-hander here at Barcroft, using all of the curb, car rocking on the suspension as it hits the brakes into Sunny in, and then the exit part of this complex, Sunny out, past the spectator banking and down towards the complex at the end of the lap. And Luke Herbert again having to defend now down towards the complex, so he's not likely to gain ground on the race leaders this time around either. Through the left-hander they go. Harding still holding on here for Blake Baldwin in 2nd position. Then it's Herbert, then it's Stacey, 2 blue cars together. Work their way now back through the hairpin at the end of the lap. What is the gap going to be? So there's 1.5 seconds at the start of the lap that separated 2nd from 3rd. At the end of this 6th lap of the race, it is 1.7, so it goes out by another 0.3 this time around. So these two are continuing to get away from the 2 cars behind, but we are only at half race distance, and you have to believe that at some point James Blake Baldwin is going to start throwing a bit more of an attack at Jack Harding here, and when he does so, that will start to hold them up. So it's not over yet. There's still a chance for Herbert and Stacey to close in, but for the time being, Jack Harding looks pretty comfortable in the lead of the race. Certainly much more comfortable now than he did earlier on in the race when he had that big queue of cars climbing all over him. Jack, I think, has had a bit of time now to get himself into a rhythm, although he's still being pushed hard by Blake Baldwin, they're not really holding each other up too much. Herbert and Stacey seem to be behaving themselves on this lap as well. Look at the fight for 4th though, that's now a 4-way fight, and I'd like to have a look at that battle, because I'm pretty sure, yes, the car at the back of that group in 8th position is Steve Roberts, and Steve Roberts started 16th. Oh, as we go safety car, the safety car is coming out now. What is this for? Regardless of what it's for, it's going to change the whole complexion of the race. But there's a car off. Oh, there's 2 cars off, because that is John Stacker, who's off down at Clairvaux. But there was another car pulled off on the inside of Sunny, but that will be the reason for the safety car. Yes, there's the other car. It's one of the Clapham North machines. It is that Nick Dunn, or is it George Grant? I think it's Dunn, isn't it? No, it's 30 something, so that's neither of them. I'm not sure which of the Clapham North liveried cars that is. 35, does that say, or 33? I really can't tell what that number is. Anyway, whoever it is, it's not James Kell. Anyway, there's a mystery car off at the far end. It's Bradley Kent, I think, isn't it? Yeah, Bradley Kent, the young brother of TCR racer Lewis, has pulled off. There we go. Got to the bottom of that in the end. So John Stack in the gravel at Clairvaux, excuse me. That car well and truly beat. Look at that, the exhaust full of gravel as well. This is what happened, and it just lost the rear of the car on the way in. and off he went. No damage done, but beached in the gravel, going no further, and the car behind him very nearly followed him straight into the gravel trap in surprise, I think, more than anything else. So, yeah, that's unfortunate for him. Now, this means that nice, nearly 2-second lead that the top two cars had will now disappear, and so Luke Herbert gets another crack at this, and he'll be right back with the race leaders. Now, that white car there, number 56, that's the car that I wanted to make mention of, because Steve Roberts, actually, since I last mentioned him, has gained another place. He's into 7th position from 16th on the grid. So Steve Roberts in car number 56, that, remember, is a new car for him this weekend. He had a car that he'd been running in all season long. He was doing really well in it, and then we got to Castle Combe. He had contact with James Blake Baldwin and wrote the car off, and he missed the previous round at Alton Park as a result, and then appeared on the entry list this weekend, and I thought, oh good, they've got the car fixed, but no, it's not the same car. It is a new car, still being prepared by the Rob Boston Racing Squad, and Steve Roberts in 7th place. Now, this safety car has been timed perfectly because it brings the leaders closer to him. Steve Roberts is a definite contender for a podium finish in this race, and he's got a bit of a point to prove as well, I think. He's a double former BMW Compact Cup champion, so he's well used to close quarters one-make racing, but it took him, he made his debut in this championship at the start of last year, and it took him the best part of a season to get to grips with the car, and that is something you hear quite often amongst drivers who move into the MX-5 SuperCup for the first time. The cars take a bit of learning, but once you do learn how to drive them and how to set them up, and how to race in this championship, because it's a unique form of racing, then it does seem that if you've got the natural talent, which no doubt Steve Roberts has, you can be a race winner and a championship contender, and I really hope that Steve sticks around next season, because he will definitely be in the championship fight if he does so. So that's Steve Roberts then, on the tail of Richard Wicklin, so two drivers on for a really good result there in 7th and 6th places respectively, Roberts 7th and Wicklin in 6th, and yeah, they will both really be looking to try and keep this up. Well, it's going to be a brief safety car period, which is the good news. The lights are already out after just one lap behind the safety car. We're going to have about 5.5 minutes of racing to go in this final race of the weekend for the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. Jack Harding is your leader, James Blake Baldwin is second, and that big gap they've built up over everybody else is no more. Luke Herbert, tied with Jack Harding, we believe, for the championship lead coming into this race, is right there with them in 3rd, and Jack Harding went early there, and I think it caught James Blake Baldwin by surprise. James is still in the slipstream across the start-finish line there, so he should be able to close back in again. The question is what that man can do. Luke Herbert in 3rd position is now pulled clear, actually, of Will Stacey. Good restart for the top 3 cars, actually. Stacey dropping back slightly in 4th. These were the 3 drivers that we expected to challenge for the title this year, and that exclusion for Blake Baldwin took him out of the championship fight. A real shame it was, though, because can you imagine these 3 going head-to-head in the championship over the final few rounds? We're still excited by the prospect of a head-to-head between Herbert and Harding, but you throw James Blake Baldwin into the mix, and he is a bit of a loose cannon at times. You never quite know what he's going to do next. That makes it very exciting to watch him. Luke Herbert, though, is trying to get up the inside of him, and he's skating around under braking there down towards Tower Corner. I thought for a horrifying moment he was going to slam straight into the back of Blake Baldwin, but again, Harding is struggling now on the restart. Maybe it's taking a while to get the tyre pressures up, because on the initial start of the race, and now again here on the restart, Harding looks vulnerable. Blake Baldwin, though, is in the difficult position of trying to attack and defend, and the man he's defending from is Luke Herbert, who's right with him as they go down towards the sunny in right-hander. 2 leaders go in on a tight line, and a very wide line though for the 3rd place man, Luke Herbert. Wider, I think, than he intended to go, but he should be able to use the slipstream to close back in. They've really pulled away now from that almighty fight going on for 4th position now. Is Will Stacey still there, or has he lost? Where is Will Stacey? No, he's gone. Will Stacey's gone. So Aidan Hills is now in 4th position with Richard Wicklin 5th. So where is Will Stacey? Will Stacey, who took the restart in 4th position, is no longer in our shot. So that promotes Wicklin into 5th, Roberts into 6th position now. And Aidan Hills, who we've seen has been struggling for rear-end grip all weekend long, might actually be able to get a decent result out of this one. Across the line they go. I reckon 2 more laps to go. They might squeeze 3 in. And Jack Harding really having to defend now from James Blake Baldwin, who looks up the inside towards Clervaux, but it's a very, very difficult move to make from that far back. It almost always ends in contact, so good job that he backed out of it. Blake Baldwin, if you're wondering whether or not he'll be thinking about driving carefully around the championship contenders, I can tell you now that I'm fairly certain that is not going through the mind of the 2nd place man. He doesn't care that these 2 are fighting for a championship. In his mind, mind, he should be fighting for a championship with them as well. So he's going to go out there and try and prove a point. He pulls to the outside of Harding, under braking down towards Tower Corner. This could open the door for Herbert, who's sideways again under braking, but Luke Herbert might get the run on the exit of the corner. Look at that, gets himself up alongside James Blake Baldwin on the run down towards the Jim Clark S's for second place. Luke Herbert really wants to try and get through here and get on terms with the race leader, but he can't quite do it. Blake Baldwin hangs on, but they're definitely being held up here, aren't they, by Jack Harding in front of them. Through Barcroft, up the inside looks Luke Herbert, up the inside goes Luke Herbert. That was a really good move. He pulls a James Blake Baldwin-esque move on James Blake Baldwin himself, and Luke Herbert goes into second position. So battle is joined once again between the top two in the championship. There's nothing to choose between them in the points, and that's been reflected by how often they found themselves absolutely together on the track. Jack Harding has led this race pretty much since the start. Can Luke Herbert find a way through? We've got cars off, unfortunately. Number 62 is off, and that is Will Stevenson. There was another car involved, which I didn't quite spot, but the lead has come through, and we will get 2 more laps in. So 2 laps to go here, and the top 2 in the championship are the top 2 in the race, and they're less than a car length apart. As they go across the start-finish line, to the outside goes Herbert, to the inside goes Herbert. Jack Harding has it covered for the time being, though, into the braking zone, through the right-hander. Herbert, though, of course, has to be mindful of Blake Baldwin behind him. If he tries a move on Harding that doesn't work, then Baldwin will be straight up the inside like a rat up a drain pipe. So Luke Herbert and Jack Harding have to be careful about how they play this. Back out of the chicane they go. They both had a better run through there though than Blake Baldwin, so they built a bit of a gap up now over the third place car. Harding will have to defend again down towards Tower. Herbert will have to therefore go to the outside line, and this is perilous because this of course could bring Blake Baldwin back into play. It doesn't though. It's all about the exit speed for Herbert. It's not enough to get him alongside Jack Harding, but he's going to be virtually pushing the race leader down to the Jim Clark S's. This is all allowing, by the way, that phenomenal 4th place fight to close in, and I think Steve Roberts was going for 4th place then as they went through the Jim Clark S's. I'm not sure who's going to appear in the background. No, it's still Richard Wickland. Roberts alongside Aidan Hills as the race leaders are side by side. Oh, Luke Herbert goes on the inside. There's contact between the 2 of them. They're both off wide, and James Blake Baldwin goes past the pair of them. Luke Herbert went for the manoeuvre. Contact was made, and not only has he got past Jack Harding, but so too has Richard Wickland. So all of a sudden, Luke Herbert is going to take the championship lead down to Donington Park, and he may yet be able to get more points if he can find a way back ahead of James Blake Baldwin. Through the complex they come. There's 1 more lap to go, and James Blake Baldwin has got himself back in the lead of the race by virtue of the championship contenders coming to blows. Jack Harding's lost another place now, I think, to Aidan Hills. It's all gone wrong for the man who looked set to take the championship lead into the final round, and now he'll do well to even be within a couple of points of his championship rival. Across the line they go. 1 more lap to go. Blake Baldwin leading the way, and Richard Wickland is in a podium position already, and he wants more. He wants second place if at all possible. Down towards Clervaux they go. Herbert being given a real workover by the man who is making his, I think, first appearance this season in the championship. A former top 5 finisher is Richard Wickland, and here he is challenging the championship or reigning champion, and the man who potentially is about to move into the championship lead. Now Harding's not far behind though, and the red mist will have fully descended. Jack Harding in 4th position will be seeing what's going on in front of him and rubbing his hands with glee because it's giving him a chance to close back in on his big rival. This ain't over yet. Out of time they go, and Herbert's on the dirt as he tries desperately to get the power down out of the right-hander. Down towards the S's they go. They're all back together again. James Blake Baldwin's escaping up the road, but for second on back it is anybody's guess. Herbert has it, Wickland wants it, and Jack Harding needs it really in 4th position. He's closing all the time. Can he possibly get back onto the tail of his rival? He goes on the inside of Wickland. Oh, there's more contact up the inside of Richard Wickland, who's going to be elbowed out onto the grass. Jack Harding is absolutely furious with what happened a lap ago down at Sunny, and he wants revenge. He's right back on the tail of Luke Herbert as they go into the final 3 corners of what has been another sensational race. Stand well back because this could be about to blow up right in front of us. Harding is with Luke Herbert into the final corner of the race. Blake Baldwin is going to take the victory, but that matters little really. It's all about the fight for second place in the championship lead, and Harding's on the inside line on the exit of the corner. They trade paint side by side down to the start-finish line, but Luke Herbert is going to hang on. James Blake Baldwin takes a double race victory, but Luke Herbert hangs on by 1/10 of a second from a fired-up Jack Harding. But you know what? Jack did the job there because that was damage limitation. He could have lost about 4 or 6 points to his championship rival there. As it is, he will lose just 2 points, and it could have been an awful lot worse, but I had horrible visions there of the two of them coming together at the final corner, because Jack Harding, you could see from the attitude of the car, he was not happy at all with the way in which Luke Herbert got past him. But that's what it takes sometimes. At this stage of the season, you have to take the risks, and Luke Herbert did, and it's worked for him because he takes 2 points. 2 points. It doesn't sound like much, but in a championship this close, it makes all the difference. So Jack Harding, well, I don't think he and Luke Herbert will be best of friends after that race, but I'm sure when they go home and they sit back and they think about it, they'll realise that with a championship on the line, sometimes you have to go for it. But I'd love to see a replay of the move that Herbert made on Jack Harding in the first place, because it came out of nowhere. He just got a really good run through this section of the circuit and then just launched up the inside of Jack Harding. And, well, there is the man who I think will be taking the championship lead to Donington Park. This is all provisional because we haven't yet had official confirmation, but we do believe that that is the case. We'll obviously have confirmation of that when we get to Donington Park in a few weeks' time. Remember, the 14th of October is the date for your diary, because that is the day that the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup Championship will be decided, and I cannot wait to see what happens. They have put on such a show this year, and Jack Harding and Luke Herbert is going down to the wire, barring penalties, because of course if there are any exclusions from these races today, then that might well change things. Let's hope that's not the case though. A great victory for James Blake Baldwin, and he left the carnage behind him to take a double race victory. Luke Herbert sensationally is second place, with Jack Harding third, Richard Wicklin in fourth, a great return to the championship, and Steve Roberts comes from 16th on the grid to finish fifth. Aidan Hills is sixth, Simon Baldwin is seventh, with Carl Garnett eighth, Nick Dunn ninth, and Christian White rounding out the top 10. Then it's Colin Biceout. Will Stacey dropped down to 12th after some mystery off or moment that he had after the restart. Tom Parker was 13th ahead of James Kell, Alec Livesley, Sam Tatler, George Grant, Nick Rutter, Mark Swarbrick, and Will Stevenson rounding out the top 20. Lewis Carter was 21st, and then three retirements: Darren Stapleton, John Stack, who brought out the safety car, and Bradley Kent, who pulled off with the mechanical drama. Well, this was another great race and drama from start to finish, with Simon Baldwin starting on pole position, Will Stacey alongside him, and Jack Harding and Luke Herbert already making contact before they reached the first corner. Miraculously, they all got through the first corner with minimal drama, and it was Harding who was straight onto the tail of Simon Baldwin, making his way through in potentially controversial fashion to take the lead away. That allowed Herbert into the lead, Harding into the lead, but he could not escape and seemed to be struggling for grip. This moment down at Sunny very nearly costing him the race lead. Will Stacey got alongside him, and that sparked a sensational sequence of corners where the cars ran wheel to wheel for over half a lap. In the end, it was Herbert that lost a little bit of ground. They came out of the hairpin though with the cars still just as close as ever they had been. There was a spin for John Stack though at Clairvaux, and that brought out the safety car, punching everybody back together. On the restart, Herbert was on the attack, so too was Blake Baldwin, with Jack Harding really struggling to hang on to the race lead. In the end, Herbert was able to get through into second position and chase after the leader after a few sensational moves up at Sunny. First of all on James Blake Baldwin, but more was to come a lap or so later. Harding had the lead. There was contact further back though, the 62 car of Will Stevenson off with Mark Swarbrick, but the race lead and the championship battle was still raging. This was the move that Luke Herbert made to take the lead away from Jack Harding. Contact between the two of them, and that really set the red mist off in the number 43 car. Jack Harding was determined to get back to his rival, launching up the inside of Richard Wicklin, barging him out of the way and getting onto the tail of Luke Herbert into the final corner. More contact was inevitable. They rubbed paint on the exit of the corner, but Herbert held on for second place and the championship lead by the most slender of margins going into the final round at Donington Park. You do not want to miss the two races on the Sunday from Donington Park. The championship is going to go down to the wire, and with a little bit of needle now between the top drivers, anything could happen. Well, fantastic stuff from the Mazda MX-5 Super Cup. Stick around because there is one more race coming your way today, and that is for the Miltech Sport Volkswagen Racing Cup. Those cars in the assembly area, they will be released onto the circuit very shortly, and there's another really interesting championship battle developing in this championship too. More on that in a few minutes.
Congratulations to Jack there. And that's in race one. In second place, Luke Herbert. And the winner once again is James Blake Baldwin.
side and took the opportunity.
With the safety car, do you think that you were anything like that? All centre into the top anyway?
Yeah, I think it did, because Jack and I had a reasonable distance on this, and I think we were pulling away. But that's the problem with Croft, is 9 times out of 10 there is a safety car. So never mind, but no, a win. Thank you to Big Motorsport for all the work that they put in over this weekend. They've given me an amazing car, and as always, they work really hard, and the car's handled up really, so I can't thank them.
Looking good for the offensive part then.
Yes.
Right, congratulations on your win. Right, in second place once again. The in second place, but you're not too happy about that. No, I mean, the 8 to get a bit of Jack, and it was just close racing. If the safety car come out, I would have been they don't. I think in the time, got shapes and sung in, and Jack followed that up in toe, and Dora and was there, so yeah, good weekend, good weekend. Indeed, as I just said to James, obviously we're on top, this is going to be a great finisher. Yeah, I mean, 11 points now, so, this is the result last year, was with me at all. So it's just, everyone's hoping that yes, congratulations on your second place. So we have a quick word with Jack. Jack, congratulations in third, again, leading the championship coming into this weekend. This is one of the big changes of it. Yeah, exactly, it was Arlington. Got through to the lead, there was a bit more time time forward and just bottom with the bottom wheels, side by side for that. And they were good in the lead, doing forwarders, and it was great, but I was just starting to lose the lead, and I got put in with the safety car, was a little worried to the tyres as well. Yeah, then I was looking through to second, and then I didn't really blow up, and I had to take it in. Very small gap. So we were and contact through and put the grass back down to it. And then straight away after okay, well at least on the road again from that ability, so sets us up for yeah, well done. Congratulations to our Mazda drivers then. So we'll head back to the commentary box and our final.
Final race of the day, about to get underway here at Croft. This is the second encounter for the Miltech Sport Volkswagen Racing Cup. They provided us with a dramatic race earlier on in which a rain shower arrived partway through and caused chaos for a few drivers. This afternoon, excuse me, the sunshine is out though, the conditions much more favourable ahead of our second 20-minute race of the day. So the field making their way around on the green flag lap, led by Paul Taylor, because this is another reverse grid race. Now, you give a bunch of tin top drivers a reverse grid race at the end of the day, and you know that there's going to be action. And with a championship battle that is still raging as well in this field, anything can happen here. We have Jamie Bond, the championship leader, on 408 points. His nearest rival is Matthew Wilson on 370 points. So that is a 38-point deficit, but with 40 odd points available for a race victory in this championship, it's all still to play for. And with the reverse grid, of course, Jamie Bond starts 6th with Matthew Wilson starting 7th. So they're right together now on the 3rd and 4th rows of the grid. It's Paul Taylor who has the pole position though. Alongside him will be Darren Lewis. Rory Clark and Mark Wakefield are on row 2. There is confirmation of the front end of the grid. The success ballast to take into account here as well, which will be interesting. Owen Walton and Jamie Bond are on row 3, ahead of Matthew Wilson and Matthew Evans on the 4th row. But it's Bond and Wilson fighting for the championship. Row number 5 then, we find Martin Depper and Tom Walker, with Anthony Prendergast and Toby Davis, who came from the back of the grid to 12th in race 1, to try and make further progress. Jack Depper and Simon Tomlinson are next, ahead of Tom Witts and Josh Coggan, followed by Simon Walton and Josh Jackson potentially, but those two were involved in a fairly significant first corner incident in race number 1, where Simon Walton in second place lost it and was collected, unfortunately, by the two Joshes. Josh Coggan later retiring, but the 101 machine was out on the spot, unfortunately. So we'll wait to see whether either of those two are there at the back of the grid. Now, as I said, there is success ballast to take into account here. Now, Jamie Bond, the championship leader, there he is on the screen, is carrying the maximum 60 kilos of success ballast. Matthew Wilson, though, because he's not had the best of results of late, is carrying just 16 kilos of success ballast. So he is 44 kilos. No, right first time. Hang on. I'll get this right in a minute. He's 16. No, right first time. There we go. 44 kilos lighter. I told you I couldn't do maths. Than the championship leaders. There is Matthew Wilson. They start together on the grid, but that Scirocco is quite a bit lighter than the Golf alongside it. So that could possibly hand the advantage back to Wilson. To put that into perspective, in the previous race, Jamie Bond was 8 kilos lighter than Matthew Wilson. So Matthew Wilson was really struggling, I think, with the ballast in the previous race. This time around, though, he should be able to go forward from there and maybe take some points out of Bond going into the final round at Donington Park. It's a good system, though, with the success ballast. It prepares them for potential future touring car championships that they may choose to compete in. This is a real springboard for touring car talent, and several drivers who have made it into the upper echelons of touring car racing in the UK came through the VW Racing Cup, which is open to all cars within the VAG family, which is why we have the Audis of Owen and Simon Walton out there. As I say, I'm not convinced we have Simon there because his car was fairly badly damaged in race 1, but Owen Walton will be there and starting from 5th on the grid. On the front row, though, it's Paul Taylor and Darren Lewis. Paul Taylor made a great start in race 1. Can he do the same again here in race 2 from the front row of the grid? There are the lights. They will go red, and when they go out, we're away and racing for 20 minutes in the Miltech Sport Volkswagen Racing Cup. They go out. Now away we go, and the launch towards Clervaux begins. Looks like a good start from Taylor on the inside of row number 1. Can Darren Lewis get across in front of Rory Clark? Yes, he can. So it's going to be Taylor from Lewis, from Clark, the top 3. The action is behind, though, with Jamie Bond trying to come around the outside into 4th position. He runs out wide, he gets sideways. He's not going to be up to the gravel, surely. Oh, and sideways as well. It's happened again as first corner, I'm afraid, with car spinning left, right, and centre. I think Tom Walker was the car. Yes, it was Tom Walker who spun over to the inside of the road. Jamie Bond with a really, really big moment there, but he's immediately got 2 cars between himself and Matthew Wilson, who is there just in behind Owen Walton, excuse me, to go down the back straight with former British touring car racer Martin Deppen behind him. Rory Clark there going to the inside line down towards Tower, not to try and attack Darren Lewis, but trying to defend from Jamie Bond behind, who despite the success rate is looking really, really quick here, trying to get up the inside on the exit of the corner. Ballast just slowing down the acceleration of the number 56 car, so he was able to draw alongside into the Jim Clark S's. And really for Jamie, if he can just outscore Matthew Wilson, that'll do very nicely, but it's going to be easier said than done, because you have to imagine Wilson, with a point to prove now and points to score, will be after him. There's a lock-up, and I think the leader's gone off. Yes, Paul Taylor has gone off there down at Sunny. He locked up on cold tyres and cold brakes and went straight on onto the grass. So Paul Taylor hands the lead over to Darren Lewis. Second position is now Rory Clark, but he's coming under increasing pressure from Jamie Bond, who I think has gone through, yes, around the outside at the first part of the complex. That gives him the inside of the right-hander, and through he goes. So Jamie Bond into second position now, Rory Clark down to 3rd, then it's Mark Wakefield 4th, Paul Taylor trying to regroup now in 5th position. Jamie Bond, you wouldn't think this car was carrying maximum success ballast. It's charging through the order, and it's ready onto the tail of the race leader. Of course, Bond was the race winner in the first race of the day, though, so almost no surprise that he's going quickly. You can see the acceleration across the line. He is struggling with that weight, and he's struggling to stop the car as well. He's kind of shooting through the first corner over the curve. The car looked lively at times in the early stages of race 1, but because this is such an abrasive circuit, a lot of drivers will set the car up to be quite oversteery in the early stages, so it doesn't work the front tyres too hard. You don't have to put as much steering you put in to get the car rotating. Of course, sometimes, though, that means that on cold tyres, it can over-rotate and cause you all sorts of problems. So Jamie Bond struggling at the moment, but that may well mean that he comes on stronger later on. He's being made further back. Who was that? Was that Wilson going? No, Paul Taylor and Martin Deppen going side by side. Paul Taylor is trying to fend off the diesel-powered Scirocco, but I think Martin Deppen has got his nose in front into the Jim Clark S's. Yes, he has. So the DW Racing car goes ahead. So Paul Taylor, unfortunately, who was given this great opportunity to start on pole position, is starting to slip back down the order now. Paul Taylor is carrying no success ballast, so his car is at base weight. But unfortunately, he's not been able to take full advantage of that. After Sunny they go then. This is all allowing Darren Lewis to just escape slightly now, because Jamie Bond is coming under increasing pressure from Rory Clark, who in turn has Mark Wakefield closing in. It's strange though, in this final section, that seems to be where the Golf is really strong, and so Jamie Bond is actually closing back in on Wakefield now as they turn into the final turn. Then the acceleration out of the then he will struggle a little bit. Back on the start-finish line they go, 2 laps completed. Darren Lewis's gap over Jamie Bond officially is 3/4 of a second, but Bond to Clark is only 3/10 of a second, and Rory Clark, the Scottish driver, this is nearly a home race for him, I suppose. All Bond sideways again. One of these laps, he's not going to get that back. That was such a big slide again. He's really on the ragged edge. That car is second very, very loose, but that sometimes is just what you have to do. Otherwise, you run out of front tyres before you even reach half race distance. He still gets off the chicane pretty well, though. Through the first half of the lap, seems able to close in on Darren Lewis. It's maybe around the back of the circuit. The high-speed corners where he struggles. Mark Wakefield at the inside of Rory Clark for 3rd place, so that was a really lovely move. He gets the car stopped nicely. He's man who raced in Mini Challenge in the past. He's made the move over to the VW Cup this year. He's had a pretty decent season, actually, has Mark Wakefield. Not for a full year, but he's now for the car. He's been pretty quick, so he's now into 3rd. He is the man applying the pressure to Jamie Bond in front. Then you've got the 2 Scirocco's behind of Rory Clark and Martin Depper. Clark late on the brakes, almost too late on the brakes there. He just about gets the car stopped. Now that diesel car of Martin Depper has a bit more torque, so it accelerates out of the corners a bit better, but then doesn't have quite the top speed of the petrol-powered cars, so it all balances out quite nicely over the lap. But Martin Depper trying to use that torque to his advantage through the tight parts of the circuit, but there's nowhere to go at the moment. Rory Clark is defending nicely. Is there a gap on the inside of the hairpin? No, there isn't. Rory Clark makes sure of that. But watch for the acceleration out of the hairpin now. Can Martin Depper draw alongside down towards Clervaux? He carries more speed off the corner. But then once you start going up through the gears, that's when the petrol-powered cars come into their own slightly. The gap comes down, but Mark Wakefield in 3rd place, despite that overtaking he just made on Rory Clark, has set the fastest lap, 1:32.572. Fastest lap on the circuit at the moment. Matthew Wilson, by the way, is down in 8th place and not making any sort of progress. So this is not looking good for his championship hopes. It can't be won in this race. Jamie Bond is going to have to do it at Donington Park in the final round, but it certainly would make life very difficult for Matthew Wilson, because he looks set to go there with well in excess of a 40-point cushion. The inside goes Depper. That was a nice move, and Rory Clark seems a bit vulnerable under braking down at Tower, doesn't he? He's lost 2 places there in consecutive laps. He's coming back though at Depper on the way down towards the S's. This is going to be a battle of the bravest. Now Martin Depper doesn't back down easily, but neither does Rory Clark. He's got the advantage of youth maybe on his side, and through he goes, picks up the position again. So Rory Clark still 4th, Martin Depper 5th. They were about 2 seconds ahead of Paul Taylor at the start of the lap, and I think they're actually pulling away from him despite the battle that they're having. Field though, the leading 3 cars continue to get closer together. Again, it's side by side for 4th place. They go down towards the complex where Jamie Bond is almost into the back now of Darren Lewis as the 2 cars make their way through the left and right and then into the left of the hairpin, and Bond sees a gap on the inside line. Darren Lewis hasn't defended. Jamie Bond doesn't really need to be taking these sort of risks. He's into the side there of Darren Lewis's car and again gets the hip and shoulder on the exit of the corner, and Mark Wakefield thinks, I'll have a bit of this. I could get both of you in one fell swoop here. All 3 of them head down towards turn 1, but you can see the weight there on the Bond car hurting with acceleration. He's ducking and diving now, trying to attack and defend at the same time. Wakefield goes to the inside line. Oh, he's not going to get the car stopped. Surely he does. Mark Wakefield with a sensational move goes from 3rd to 1st in one go. Darren Lewis gets a tag in the tail from Jamie Bond. How on earth did Mark Wakefield get the car stopped then? I thought he was going to go straight into the side of Darren Lewis, who sidestepped out of the way. I think he was anticipating the same sort of outcome, and that just allowed Wakefield to go straight through. So, well, the pace that Mark Wakefield's got, that might be the last they see of him. Jamie Bond is now going up the inside of the former MX-5 racer, who returns the favour. They made contact at Hawthorne, and now bits of trim go flying. I told you that Sparks would fly in this race. Martin Depper, meanwhile, has got himself ahead of Rory Clark. Clark is trying to fight back on the way to the Jim Clark S. I don't think he did that. I think that Depper made it stick. Yes, he did. So it will change now. So into the race lead goes Mark Wakefield with one of the moves of the day. Jamie Bond in 2nd and Darren Lewis in 3rd, and Jamie Bond runs out wide at the entry to the Sunny complex, and that brings Darren Lewis back onto his tail. He is struggling with this weight, isn't he? But look at this for a move. So the 2 in front are so preoccupied with each other, they almost forgot, I think, about Mark Wakefield, who is just so late on the brakes down into the 1st corner, gets past Jamie Bond, and you can see the moment there that Darren Lewis realised Wakefield was coming, and that was really heads-up driving from Darren, because a lot of other drivers would have turned in there and been wiped out by Mark Wakefield steaming up the inside. There was room for them all to get through the corner, and as it turned out, Wakefield was early enough on the brakes to make the corner as well. So heads-up driving from Darren Lewis, and they're really losing ground to the leader now, who already has pulled out 1.3 seconds over this now 3-way fight for 2nd place. Jamie Bond in 2nd place. Darren Lewis even trying to get it back. And Darren Wilson. Now, this is Darren Wilson's old car, but it's Martin Depper in it now in 4th place, and back into 2nd place goes Darren Lewis. So Darren Lewis goes through. Jamie Bond misses the chicane, because he can't really run side by side through there, and will rejoin back in between the two cars. So Jamie Bond, no sooner as he got into 2nd position, that he loses it again to Darren Lewis, and now he's going to have Martin Depper breathing down his neck, then dropping Rory Clark behind there. Then it's Paul Taylor in 6th, going on to 7th, 8th position for Matthew Evans. Now, where is Matthew Wilson? He's down to 12th place all of a sudden, so Wilson's weekend really is unravelling now. I don't know what's wrong with Matthew. He's been front runner all season long, of course, that's why he's a championship contender, but just not really on his way here at Croft. So down into the sunny complex to go. Jamie Bond, oh, there's going to be contact surely with Lewis. Yes, there is. It's really bizarre, this, isn't it? Because Jamie Bond with the heavier car, because remember Darren Lewis, how much success balance has Darren Lewis got on board? I don't think he's carrying any as far as I'm aware. So, yeah, so Darren Lewis with no ballast, 60 kilos lighter than Jamie Bond, but Jamie Bond under braking really seems to be a lot quicker than Lewis. It's only really under acceleration that he's struggling. So Darren Lewis fighting him off for the time being. This has brought Martin Depper well and truly into play now. Martin Depper, one of the real characters of the paddock, trying his best to get onto the podium here. He's been close a couple of times this year, and things have gone wrong, so he doesn't really want that to happen again here at Croft. Across the line they go, the lead gap out to 2.3 seconds. Lewis is 4/10ths of a second ahead of Depper, who is 9/10ths of a second ahead of Clark. Taylor's still in 5th position. Through the right-hander at Hawthorne, there's Mark Wakefield, the race leader. This, the fight for 2nd place, and already there's been a bit of argy-bargy between these three. Nothing particularly untoward, but these things tend to build. It's a bit of a pressure cooker race, this, isn't it? Eventually someone's going to snap, and it could all get very physical indeed. We're just into the second half of the race now, still 10 minutes to go. And can Darren Lewis fend off Jamie Bond, who, as I reiterate the point, does not really need to be taking these sort of risks, but risks that he's definitely taking in this race that so far haven't really paid off, because he's still down in 3rd place. He doesn't look any more likely to win the race now than he did earlier on. Really, he just needs to sort of play the points paying exercise here, just finish the race in as decent a position as he can without taking too many risks. His nearest rival is way back down the order, so in fact his nearest two rivals are both struggling. His 3rd in the championship going into this round was Toby Davis. Jamie Bond was he up the inside then again? No, Darren Lewis all shut just about as they work their way through. Rory Clark, though, is now catching. Now Clark is, as I said, came into this weekend behind Toby Davis. He was 4th in the points. He's now ahead of him, though, by virtue of Toby having lived a disastrous weekend. Jamie Bond pulling along from pit lane, then pulls alongside, though, Darren Lewis as he comes to the straight, and then you see the effect of the weight. He just can't out-drag the 285 car down the pit straight. But this is all starting to get a bit messy, and we've got Martin Depper going up the inside now. You see, this is what happened to Jamie Bond before. He's so preoccupied trying to get past Darren Lewis that he's not necessarily defending from the cars behind. So through goes Depper. Depper now into 3rd position. Next car on Jamie Bond's tail is a championship rival, Rory Clark, who is an outside bet for the title, that's for sure. But if he can get through past a few more cars in this one, and maybe Jamie Bond has an issue either here or at Donington Park, then Clark could still be challenging. He's really built up some nice momentum over the second half of the year. So Rory, Darren Lewis out on the grass coming out of Tower, trying to give the torquey diesel of Martin Depper maybe a chance again to attack this part of the circuit. Wakefield, the race leader for 2nd place. It's 4 cars together though. Darren Lewis, Martin Depper, Jamie Bond and Rory Clark. Lewis not the quickest of this group by far, but defending really nicely, and what he seems to be able to do is figure out quite quickly where the car attacking him is quicker and work out a suitable form of defence. So he's not really holding himself up particularly. They're still only 2.6 seconds behind the race leader, but he's just defending where he needs to, and then when he doesn't have to defend, he's actually fairly quick. He's able to pull back away, but Depper's looking up the inside line. He's tried this a few times already. He locks on the brake, he gets into the side of Darren Lewis, and Jamie Bond could benefit from this after all. Through goes Martin Depper. Lewis is now alongside Bond for 3rd, and Lewis will hang on to that position. Jamie Bond stays in 4th position as they rush now down towards Clairvaux once again. The green car of Martin Depper is the one really making ground. Now, can he catch Mark Wakefield? Because there are still just over 7 minutes left of this race. The gap is 2.8 seconds. It's not really, in fact, it came down last time around. Depper, even with that overtake in the contact, was a 1/10.5 quicker than the race leader. So now he's in clean air. As long as he can stay in clean air and pull away from Darren Lewis, Martin Depper could close in on the leader. There is the leader, Mark Wakefield. Here's the fight for second place. It is still the green car in front. Darren Lewis trying to come back at him though. Of course, Darren Lewis, a former Mazda MX-5 racer, and as we've just seen when they've been overtaken in Mazda MX-5 racing, the philosophy is trying to get the place back at the first possible opportunity. So Darren has learned from that and is trying to apply those sort of tactics here in the VW Racing Cup. He's put the headlights on as well, which is racing driver code for I'm quicker than you and I'm coming through. But he's not coming through just yet. Jamie Bond sort of just maybe now. Oh no, Tepper's off. Martin Tepper. Where was he going then? He was so late on the brakes. He takes the runoff area and all of that hard work is undone and he's back down into 5th place. Well, fair play to Martin. He was pushing on. He was under pressure there from Darren Lewis. But he's now back down and there's something dragging underneath that car now, unfortunately, possibly from running out over the grass. This now elevates Jamie Bond back into a podium place, and he still wants more. He wants to get second place away from Lewis. Goes up the inside of the hairpin. We've seen this before. Yeah, clatter into the side, run him off the road. These cars are getting more and more dog-eared as the race goes on. Across the line they will go once more, but Lewis can just out-drag Bond down the straight because Bond's car is so heavy, and yet again Jamie Bond's so preoccupied in getting past Darren Lewis that he loses not one but 2 positions because both Rory Clark and Martin Tepper come through. Well, Jamie Bond, I hope he's enjoying himself out there, because if he's not, then he's really not achieving anything from this race. He looks like he's going to take a pretty healthy championship lead into Donington Park, but the car is falling to pieces around him. Look at the damage on the front end of that car from the various bits of contact it's sustained in this race, and really in most of those occasions it's been Jamie dishing it out. You can see there that something is dragging into the front left corner of Martin Tepper's car there. The machine is trailing on the ground. It doesn't appear to be slowing him down too much. Really, the man of the race at the moment is Darren Lewis, because he's fended off every one of these drivers behind him. At some point, they've all been alongside him, and every time he's repelled the challenge. Can he now keep the red and grey striker of Rory Clark behind him? Rory got involved in a bit of contact himself in the part last time out, and he's been trying to get to grips with his car and the rather unique style of racing we see in the Tech Sport VW Racing Cup. It's certainly very entertaining racing, but the VW spares department will be very, very happy when they see these damaged cars traipsing back to the pit lane at the end of the race, but they're not afraid to get their elbows out, and that is certainly very entertaining racing. Again, Darren Lewis doesn't defend into the hairpin. Rory Clark wasn't really close enough that time around. It looks like Darren is inviting them up the inside, but he's doing that so as to get the exit speed out of the corner and a long start-finish race. And you have to say that so far that tactic, whilst unorthodox, it does seem to be working, because every time they get up the inside through the hairpin, he pulls back ahead of them down towards Lervo. This time around though, Rory Clark seems to be a bit quicker in a straight line. He's going to try and get the quicker Lervo. Lewis bounces over the curb. Yeah, wants to do that too often. Damage the suspension, damage the drive shaft, even damage the tyres and the wheels, as we saw from Lewis Kent earlier on in the TCR race. Using the curve successively. Anything else you can get told off conceding track limits, which is actually something we haven't heard all that much about this weekend, thankfully. And into the braking zone again. This is on the circuit where Depper seems to come on strong, and then through the last sector is where Rory Clark closes in again. Through it all, Darren Lewis is still in second position. Clark guesses they go, just 3.5 minutes left in this race as well, so the second half of the race is going by an awful lot more quickly than the first half seemed to. Both halves of the race have equal levels of drama and excitement. Mark Wakefield, don't forget, is still leading the way. This is the fight for third place between Rory Clark and the green machine of Martin Tepper, who gets his braking right this time into Sunny. White slip on the inside of the 52 machine. Second right-hander up and over the crest. It's a fairly flat circuit, Croft, being an ex-airfield circuit, but it's got its fair share of undulations and bumps that can unsettle the car if you're a little unwary. Definitely so close to the back of Rory Clark. Now Rory does defend the inside line. Now let's see whether this costs him speed on the exit of the corner, whether or not the diesel Scirocco can drag alongside. Clark's car seems good in a straight line, doesn't it? So I'm not convinced that they are going to be able to challenge him. Rory, though, remember, he's running with 60 kilos as well, so his car is equally as heavy as Jamie Bond's car. Rory just seems to be a little more competitive with it. So Martin definitely still. Martin is running ballast free in this race, so his car should be lighter than the pair of cars around him. and indeed he is looking racy. He has at one point been ahead of them, but then made a mistake, and he's now left himself with all the hard work to do again. He's got a lap and a half, just over a lap and a half left to try and do this, and this is a new feature in the race. They've got some traffic to deal with now, so the slower car's about to go a lap down. Oh, and Martin Depp is getting into the back of Rory Clark. He's getting impatient now. Well, Rory Clark was looking far too clean and undamaged for Martin Depp's liking, and so he gets into the back of him. Jamie Bond, though, actually benefits about that. They're going to meet the traffic, though, into the Jim Clark S's, and Bond had to back out of it. Otherwise, he was going to run into the back of the slow car. That really helped Darren Lewis, though. Look at the way that he's pulled away. He got through the traffic a little bit more swiftly than the cars behind, and Depper again is into the back of Clark, and this time surely Clark's going to be off the road. They're side by side again into the second part of Sunny. It's a very physical form of racing, isn't it, in the VW Racing Cup, and it's providing lots of overtaking, but Bond now into the back of Clark as well. They're locking up left, right and centre, but Depper's got to his. Oh no, more contact, and that all seemed very unnecessary. Depper and Clark both out of the race, surely. Clark's car certainly seems to have some damage to the suspension. Depper both rejoining. I'm not really convinced that had to happen, but now Rory Clark is not happy about that, and you can just tell sometimes from the body language of the car when retaliation might be on the driver's mind. We'll watch out for that over the final lap if they continue, but they may well have to win the pit lane if the cars are damaged. So they've both gone through again, with Depper now fourth place. Here's a replay. So Depper went round the outside, and Rory Clark appears, we must say appears, to turn straight into him. That is one of the strangest collisions I think I've ever seen. I really don't understand what happened there, but anyway, it's cost them both, and it means that Darren Lewis is now 2.7 seconds clear in second place. Now look at the state of Jamie Bond's car. That is the car, remarkably, that is being driven by someone who has one hand on the championship trophy, but he's not going to have much of his car left, I don't think, at the end of this race. I didn't quite see where he sustained the latest bit of damage. Presumably it was in the Depper and Clark shenanigans down at the complex, but Darren Lewis is in second place. This man, Mark Wakefield, is only a few corners away now from a race victory here at Croft. Mark Wakefield has driven sublimely in this race. He's one of the few drivers that hasn't been involved in too much paddle bashing, and he's going to take his first race victory of the season. Jamie Bond is going to come through in third and is not going to win the championship yet. It's not quite official. He still has some work to do at Donington Park next time out, but he certainly is going to be tough to beat. He's been quick this weekend, with or without the weight on, whereas Matthew Wilson hasn't really been able to go with him. At the front of the field, though, Mark Wakefield, in deserving fashion, is going to take the victory after a superb move to take the lead down at Clervaux. He takes the victory in the final race of the day. Darren Lewis comes home in second. Jamie Bond is in third, and what something tells me that something else happened between these two just now, didn't it? Martin Depp comes home in fourth and Rory Clark fifth, but Clark was very slow out of the final corner. Then it was Paul Taylor in a rather lonely sixth. Seventh place is going to go away, I think, to Matty Evans. Yes, it does. Eighth place for Owen Walton, then, because Josh Jackson loses 2 places on the last lap. So Josh, who was 8th, now drops down to 10th behind both Owen Walton and Tom Witts. And Tom Witts came through from 15th on the grid to finish 9th. Jackson rounds out the top 10 after what was a hectic and at times, quite frankly, bizarre round of the Miltech Sport VW Racing Cup, but it kept us on the edge of our seat throughout the entire 20 minutes, and I suppose for that we shouldn't really complain. Mark Wakefield with one of the moves of the day, though, and with all of the contact that was going on there, it's easy to forget that he pulled off a squeaky clean move to go past 2 drivers into the first corner, which is something I can't recall ever seeing, certainly not in this form of racing. Yeah, Mark Wakefield, his first victory of the year, and a deserving one at that. Darren Lewis likewise in second place. Now, what's Darren Lewis's best finish of the season he only joined the championship at Alton Park, and I think that is going to be his best finish of the year. Yes, it is. So good stuff there from both of our top 2. It's Wakefield that takes the victory. It's Lewis that takes second. For both of them, it is their best finish of the year so far. But it's Jamie Bond in third place, who, whilst not yet the champion, is getting very close to being so. Martin Depper is 4th. Rory Clark is 5th after their shenanigans towards the end of the race. Paul Taylor 6th. Matthew Evans 7th. Owen Walton 8th. Tom Witts 9th. And Josh Jackson rounds out the top 10. Then it's Tom Walker, Matthew Wilson, a lowly 12th, unfortunately. Anthony Prendergast is 13th. Toby Davis, again, didn't really, in fact, he went backwards in that race to 14th, ahead of Jack Depper in 15th, whilst Josh Coggan and Simon Tomlinson were both a lap down. Josh Coggan's car, of course, damaged in the previous race, so that's possibly a legacy of that. Well, brace yourself. Let's remind ourselves of everything that happened over the course of the last 20 minutes. It was Paul Taylor that led at the start of the race, whilst further back Tom Walker had a lurid spin at the first corner, forcing several cars into the gravel in avoidance. Paul Taylor, though, held the lead, but only as far as the Sunny complex on the first lap, where he locked up, went straight on and handed the lead to Darren Lewis. Paul Taylor would rejoin and eventually finish in 6th position. Lewis led the way then from Jamie Bond in 2nd, but Mark Wakefield was coming. He made a lovely move up the inside of Rory Clark down at Tower, but more was to come later on. He then set about attacking Jamie Bond, whilst Martin Depper was also making good progress up the order as he began a race-long feud with Rory Clark. The pair ran side by side through the Jim Clark S's and through indeed most of the corners around the circuit. At this stage they were keeping it clean. Sadly that wouldn't last. Jamie Bond started to attack Darren Lewis for the race lead. They made contact up with a hairpin, and this set about a fascinating sequence of events as they banged panels on the exit of the turn. Mark Wakefield got the run on the pair of them, dived to the inside, threw out the anchors and the parachute, and somehow got the car stopped, taking the race lead with a fantastic bit of racecraft. Darren Lewis was then trying to fend everybody else off behind. Jamie Bond so preoccupied in trying to get past the 285 car that he was consistently losing positions into the first corner. Martin Depper got past him, then had a go at getting past Darren Lewis. Guess what? There was contact, they both ran out wide, and Jamie Bond very nearly got past the pair of them. That was not to be the last bit of panel bashing that we saw in the race, as Depper, having got into 2nd place, ran on down at Sunny and handed all of those places straight back. Jamie Bond then set about attacking Darren Lewis, with Rory Clark coming on strong in the second half of the race, taking 3rd place away from him on the drag down the pit straight. Martin Depper also went through up the inside line. Bond, though, would soon get back past them as they engaged in a bit of shoulder barging, shall we say, down at the complex at the end of the lap. Remarkably, both cars finished inside the top 5. They could not, though, compete with the sublime performance by Mark Wakefield. He took the victory, his first of the season, with Darren Lewis 2nd, and Jamie Bond doing his championship hopes the world of good with an eventful 3rd place finish. Well, eventful really has been the word of the day. We've had so much drama today at Croft across all of our races. The TCR UK Championship is going right down to the wire, so too is the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup, but we have had a champion crowned today in the form of Niall Murray in the Avon Tyres Formula Ford 1600 Championship. We hope that you will join us for Donington Park, either trackside or at home watching on the various live streams. October the 13th and 14th is the date in your diary. Championships will be decided and history will be made with our first ever TCR UK champion set to be crowned. Well, thank you very much for joining us here today at Croft. I hope you've enjoyed your day's action. Apologies for a few of the technical dramas that plagued our Facebook feed earlier on today. Hopefully they got that up and running as the day went on. But thank you for your perseverance and thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again for the final round at Donington Park.